So there's a new report out by the Washington Post that has detailed the Saudi government's efforts at lobbying the Trump administration. Now, according to this article, lobbyists representing the Saudi government had reserved blocks of rooms at President Trump's D.C. hotel within a month of Trump's election in 2016. They paid for an estimated 500 nights at the luxury hotel in just 3 months, according to organizers of the trips and documents obtained by the Post. Now, at the time, the large numbers of lobbyists these lobbyists were reserving large numbers of D.C. area hotel rooms as part of a campaign that offered military veterans a free trip to Washington. Now, of course, that came with some strings attached because they were sent to Capitol Hill to lobby against a law that the Saudis had opposed. So there's some big issues here, right? Now, for one, the Saudi government literally used veterans to campaign against a law that they didn't like. Now, that law, the one that they really didn't like, was called the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act. Now, that act was passed by Congress. Now, President Obama, of course, look, Obama and a lot of these presidents, Clinton and now Trump, are deeply in favor of Saudi Arabia. You know, going back, of course, to cheap oil deals and, we've got Israel and we're against Iran, etc. And so President Obama vetoed that. But there was enough support in Congress, bipartisan support, to say, you know what? No, we're going to override your veto and we're going to put this into place. Now, what is this, right? Well, the law, backed by families of the September 11 victims, basically would open the door to costly litigation alleging that the Saudi government bore some blame in 9/11, because out of the 19 hijackers involved in the attacks, 15 of them were Saudi Arabian, were Saudi citizens. And the Saudi Arabian government has been sponsors of terrorism. And of course, they've spread the most fundamentalist strain of Islam all over the Middle East. So yeah, they're a bit dangerous, right? So now Saudi Arabia, not thrilled about this because it would cost them money, especially the Saudi royal family, right? So now they decided to recruit some veterans to now fight against the 9/11 families. Now they found one in Jason E. Johns. Now, Jason Johns was an Army veteran and a Wisconsin lobbyist who began emailing other veterans. He was hired by Saudi Arabia, a firm. So a firm was employed by Saudi Arabia, and the firm hired Mr. Johns. And so Johns, his job was to rally veterans. And so he began emailing them. And according to identical emails two veterans shared with the Post, Johns invited the veterans, whom he did not know personally, on a trip to, quote, storm the Hill to lobby against this particular law. Now, the email said, lodging at the Trump International Hotel, all expense paid. John's email signature said he was with NMLB, Veterans Advocacy Group, which is John's law firm in Madison. Now, according to filings with the Justice Department, Johns was making the overtures on behalf of the Saudi government. The Saudis' longtime lobbyist, Corvus, was paying someone else, who in turn was paying Johns. So, follow the money, and they did, and it led right back to the Saudi princes. Now, those veterans, most of them didn't say that they didn't know that they were being paid for by the Saudis. And some, there's a little bit of question as well, and I urge you guys to read the full article. Now, some of the veterans who stayed at Trump's hotel say, look, we were kept in the dark about the Saudis' role, and now are wondering if they were used twice, not just to deliver someone else's message to Congress, but also, since they were staying in the Trump hotels, to deliver business to the Trump organization. So that's how Trump is involved. So first they were, we're going to stay at some other hotels. And then I had the great idea to go and stay in the Trump hotels right after Trump wins the presidency. That's weird, isn't it? That's quite a coincidence. So how much business did the Trump organization get from these veterans? Now, the Post estimated the Saudi government paid for more than 500 nights in Trump hotel rooms. In all, the lobbyists spent about $270,000 to house 6 groups of visiting veterans at the Trump Hotel, which Trump still owns. Now, during this period, according to the records, the average nightly rate at the hotel was $768. The lobbyists who ran the trip say that they chose Trump's hotel strictly because it offered a discount from that rate and had rooms available, not to curry favor with Trump. Oh, no, of course not. It had nothing to do with that, according to Michael Gibson, who's a Maryland-based political operative who helped organize the trips. Gibson was the man who was paying Johns, by the way. Oh, no, it had nothing to do with Donald Trump at all. Oh, no, we were just hunting around for cheap hotel rooms, and the cheapest that we could find is, well, the discount for a Trump organization room. Now, wait a minute here. The rooms at the Trump Hotel, $768. That's not cheap. Oh, but there's a discount. It's only $500 a night for veterans. You can still probably find cheaper hotel rooms. And look, a lot of these veterans, they say just the exact thing. We were surprised at how much money they were spending on us. Normally, we go to like a hall and maybe we'll stay at a Hotel 6 or something like that, or Motel 6, sorry. We were so surprised they were spending so much money. In fact, that was one of the red flags here, right? According to some of the veterans, he said there were private rooms, open bars, free dinners, and everything. And then one of the organizers who had been drinking a mini bar champagne did mention a Saudi prince. Now, this is Dan Cord, a Marine veteran. Here's a quote from him on that, on how much money they were spending. Quote, "We've done hundreds of veterans events, and we've stayed in Holiday Inns and eaten Ritz crackers and lemonade. And we're staying in this hotel that costs $500 a night? I'd never seen anything like this." They were like, "That's what's so cool. Drink on us." Each trip included 1 and sometimes 2 dinners at a Trump hotel banquet room. There was usually an open bar, veteran said, and was always supposed to end at a certain hour. Often, for dramatic effect, Johns would declare an extension. Oh, of course. I know we're supposed to leave at this time, but let's just stay another hour. Put it on our tab. That's according to Scott Bartels, an Army veteran from Wisconsin. Now, another surprise, of course, for them is how bad their group seemed to be at actually lobbying in favor of the law that the Saudis are paying them to lobby. Veterans said that they were told that the new law might cause other countries to retaliate and might lead to U.S. veterans being prosecuted overseas for what their units had done in a war. They were given several fact sheets, including one with small print at the bottom, reading, "This is distributed by Corvus MSL Group on behalf of the Royal Embassy of Saudi Arabia." So the paperwork itself said, oh, by the way, you were getting paid by Saudi Arabia to say this. How could you not know? Well, maybe if you don't read anything, and that certainly could be the case. They said they also weren't given briefings about how the law ought to be amended or policy briefings to leave behind for legislators to study. They were just told, this law is bad, so go and meet with lawmakers and tell them how bad it is. Now, going back to how terrible they were at actually doing this lobbying, right? They ended up meeting with the same legislators, and in some cases, congressional staffers would confront them because they knew Saudi Arabia was funding the trip. One of them actually said, this is one of the veterans actually, he said, "We walk in there and they go, 'Are you the veterans that are getting bribed?'" Wow. So, and of course, one of them, or I should say many of them, met with Chuck Grassley or Chuck Grassley's people. Chuck Grassley had already made up his mind on this. And he's like, "No, I'm not gonna support Saudi Arabia. You're wasting your time. You've met with me over 4 times. Like, I'm not interested. I know what you're gonna say. Let's talk about other things." And so a lot of these meetings ended up with the veterans just talking about other things than this law, and yet they were still paid to do so. So now, what's Trump's role in this? Well, basically, he just sat back and made a ton of money through his hotels. So, was there an active law or an active, like, was he active in this and setting it up? No, he was just reaping the rewards. He was getting a lot of money right after he became president. Now, the problem with that is that breaks the emoluments clause in the Constitution. He is making money from a foreign government as president of the United States. That's a big, gigantic no-no. And of course, you see his relationship with Saudi Arabia now. How he basically defended Saudi Arabia and Mohammed bin Salman, who gave the order to execute and dismember a journalist, a Saudi journalist working for the Washington Post. But he says, well, I don't like the Washington Post anyway. And I love how the Saudis keep paying me money and buying renting my hotel rooms and buying my condos, giving me money. Yeah, I'm just going to turn my back. I love the Saudis. They give me lots of money for my hotel rooms. And so when they murder a journalist, I just turn my back. I don't care. I don't care at all. So, look, and be fair, as I said before, Obama liked Saudi Arabia, and all these other countries, or I'm sorry, all the other presidents loved Saudi Arabia, but for different reasons. And to be fair to Obama, he never did make personal money off Saudi lobbyists looking to curry favor that we know of right now. So, look, if you were wondering the depths of corruption in our government and how Donald Trump has taken it to a new personal low, I should say, personal high, personal low, whatever. Well, there it is. The Saudis, by keeping his business, he allowed the Saudis to get their foot in the door and to do more corruption, which he personally benefited from. There it is. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.